Hello my friends, welcome to episode 53. Basically, I'm actually in an unwinnable position now from the campaign. And to be honest, it's something I really don't like about this game, which is a real shame. But, so my strategy was to just push up here, make a wall of my units, and then just hold the line here, and then just push my units from south to north, killing everything along the way. And what I didn't realize is that all the German units are level 4. Literally all of them are level 4, which gives them a +4 bonus to all their soft stats. And despite this being a mission where they are the defender, the Germans are actually aggressively attacking down this way and this way. They have 2 tank pushes, one here, and these 2 tank pushes are going down here and across here. And they've just slaughtered auxiliary units because the auxiliary units are all...
Tanks awaiting orders.
Are all level 3, I think, or 2 in some cases.
Aye, Commander.
The auxiliary units are considerably weaker than the German units in terms of quality and capability, and they have actually managed to do so much damage to the auxiliary units, much like the last mission. They've done so much damage to the auxiliary units that even if I win this mission now perfectly, which I'm not going to because I'm already taking victory point damage here for losses, even if I win the mission perfectly, I will have lost so much prestige to auxiliary unit losses that I will not make any profit from the mission at all. Which will put me on the downhill spiral to not being able to win the game, or not being able to finish the game. So, my only choice really, because there wasn't really a lot of enemy units here. Now I don't know if that's just because I deployed all my units here or what, but there wasn't the hugest amount of German resistance in this area. I still think that the right move is to push up here because they want you to stop these air transports and ships. And I'm not really sure how you're supposed to do that unless you cut up here fast, because you haven't got any units in the sea here to help you with the enemy transports. So I basically find myself... Oh, this...
We bring the firepower.
This really annoyed me as well, because that weird bug where it disappeared obviously caused me to not use it on the last turn. This is probably the only high power anti-tank unit I have. Yeah, it's created a situation where I've lost economically without ever having lost a core unit. And on this mission, with having hardly taken any damage at all. And it's the same as the last couple of missions, with just heavy auxiliary damage because you have so many auxiliary units. And the enemy has so many units that you have to use the auxiliary units. You can't just not use them. And then they end up taking a lot of damage, and they cost more to repair than your core units do, which is mind-boggling to me. Because, well, they technically cost the exact same amount to repair as your core units, but they are generally weaker and more poorly equipped.
Infantry awaiting orders.
And in this game, being low level means you have less defense, which means you take more damage, which cumulatively means that they end up costing more to fix, because they take more damage more easily. So the question is as to whether to... Well, this other issue here is, you know, hordes of enemy fighters with level 4 enemy fighters with all the nice equipment. So the question is as to whether to start this mission again and redeploy in such a way that hopefully I can protect these auxiliary units from being slaughtered like this. And to be honest, not even like the hugest amount of them have died. But it's enough. Apparently 3,350 points worth has died, so really that all that takes is about 3 bombers.
No escaping us.
Since these are quite expensive. Yeah, so all it takes is for you to lose a couple of auxiliary units.
Standing by.
I mean,
sir.
I've lost more than a couple, but you know, effectively all you'd have to lose is 3 bombers and a fighter to reach 3,500. And you will be in a position where you're not going to make any money and you're going to start losing victory points. Now the answer, obviously, is to have way more anti-aircraft guns. And I guess to deploy at least 1 tank in every spawning position to serve as a shield. But I just don't like the... I just don't like the whole concept that auxiliary units cost more to support than your core army, and that your whole campaign is going to be decided on auxiliary losses rather than actual core unit losses. It's boggling, it's mind-boggling to me that in a game you can really look after your units that are, you know, supposed to be under your direct command really well, and not lose any, and slaughter your way through the enemy with them, and yet still end up in a terrible position because you just have massive battles where you can't be everywhere, and the enemy just gets to do effectively pre-scripted damage to auxiliary units, ensuring that you're going to take damage, you're going to take losses.
Just say the word.
Unless, of
Keeping the
course,
sky
I mean,
clear.
you know, I've definitely not played this campaign perfectly. I could have done, you know, there's a lot of the game I misunderstood early on, and I could have made potentially a lot more money and therefore deployed a lot more units on this mission. Maybe had more, you know, more units, more anti-aircraft guns, more bits and pieces to actually more be everywhere, if that makes sense. But I just still don't like the concept that auxiliary units are more expensive to repair than core units, and you have no control over them, and often you have no control over the combats in which they're involved. You know, unless you're going to take them all and just... But you can't. You know, you have this idea of just taking all the auxiliary units and running away with them and putting them on the corner of the map or something, but you can't even really do that either, because... You know, for example, the Germans here have got like 6 or 7 fighters. I mean, even if I'd played perfectly and had a good extra 3 or 4 units at this point, I don't see how you really prevent auxiliary unit losses. It's funny because there was a commenter who said that they'd played a lot of this game, and they said that, you know, they found that after a while the main issue with it was just that the game degraded into massive auxiliary unit battles, and most of their economy was disappearing to auxiliary unit costs. And I didn't really think like that was the biggest issue until the last mission and this one, where, you know, you had that whole that whole naval landing thing going on, and you had all these core units to auxiliary units to worry about, and you know, the aircraft and ships involved in that battle, you need to use them. You have to use them, and they are, no matter how well you play, they're going to take a certain amount of damage, and that amount of damage is predetermined, effectively, because there's no way that you can change the equipment of any of that stuff before the battle begins. And so you're going to lose 400 to 600 prestige on the previous mission, where the reward is like 1,000 prestige. You're going to lose 400 to 600, guaranteed, even if you play perfectly, because you have to use units over which you have no operational control. Operational control being, you know, from mission to mission to mission, equipment over strength, etc. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about whether I want to reattempt this mission with a different strategy. Because I mean, this strategy worked perfectly, and I suppose you could argue it worked too perfectly, in that I am pushing up here pretty much, you know, on time, and I'm not really taking any damage here. So I could afford to have less units in this AO and put some over here to help stop the tank push. But the other part of me actually just wants to start the campaign from the beginning with all the lessons that I've learned, because I know I could get to this point with far more units, far more money, far more equipment. But I don't in any way think that I played badly. I just think that there's a bizarre quirk of this game that your finances are going to be drained by auxiliary units on a lot of these maps. And the higher difficulty level means that the advantage that the enemy units have over the auxiliary ones grows and grows as the maps go on. Because once you start getting to 12 overstrength units that are level 4 versus units that are level 3 or level 2 and only 10 strength,
Tactical bomber standing by.
then you really start to reach a point where, you know, the enemy units can just wade into your auxiliaries and really just annihilate them.
Infantry standing by.
Because the benefits of levels are so great in this game. Do you know, this is not even a bad position. Like, I would totally play out the map from here and almost certainly win it. Because, as I said before, none of my core units have really taken any damage. This invasion up the north is proceeding as planned. All I'd really have to do is do a bit of strat bombing here, because there was like 3 vehicles here.
Any orders for us?
Like, bring the scout back here to highlight them, then bomb them. Just to make sure that they don't get this supply station down here. And then I'd probably have to bomb this guy to prevent them from getting this supply station here. And as long as I prevent them from getting those 2 supply stations, as soon as I get up here on the main city, I can start cutting their supplies off. And plus, I think that it doesn't cause you to win, I think, but I do believe within a couple of turns, so probably by turn 12 or turn 11, I could be up here cutting this off, and then putting all of this in no supply hell. But it won't matter. It won't matter if I do all that, because auxiliary damage will mean that the victory will not be economically viable, even if I myself take no damage. That's just crazy to think about. So I need to give it some thought as to what I'm going to do about this campaign. Whether I'll redeploy on this mission and see if I can approach the mission more defensively while still, because obviously I want to capture that tiger, because that's going to be critical as well. So yeah, I gotta think about if there's a way I can approach this mission more defensively. And thus protect... It's such a weird thing to say, but, protect these auxiliary units from being slaughtered. Because they are effectively going to result in... their losses are going to result in me losing economically, even if I win militarily. I either have to do that, or I really have to start the campaign from the beginning with all of the knowledge that I've gained with how the EXP system works and how the economy is going to be. Which would undoubtedly put me in a much better position, because I know which units to buy and which ones to sell now.
Any orders for us?
I could certainly pick up a lot more inexpensive vehicles earlier on and have a bigger ground force by this point. Also, the knowledge that anti-aircraft guns are just going to be so incredibly useful throughout the whole campaign because of the air power that's going to be thrown around.
Any work for a flak battery?
Okay, that's it for now. I'll think about a fresh approach to this mission, or potentially a restart with more perfect play than what I played through. I guess my base skill plus playing blind may not be enough to actually win this. And the funny part is, the combat part of the game is not difficult. My core army has been slaughtering its way through the maps while taking hardly any damage. 90% of my expenses throughout the whole campaign have been auxiliary units. It's a very weird way for the game to play out.
Here for close support.
And it's something that you...
Here for close support.
I don't think you're going to understand it on a first playthrough, that the game is like this. And I wouldn't even call it difficult. That's the funny part, is I wouldn't even say it's hard. It's, if I'm on a map and there's 2 battleships here that are German, and there's 2 battleships here that are mine, and, I can influence that battle by bringing some planes over. So I bring some planes over and I influence that battle, and I win it. But nevertheless, those German ships are going to blast my ships, and they're going to take damage, and I'm going to have to pay for those ships to be repaired. And there's literally nothing I could do. No way to stop that damage. When you're on a higher difficulty level, and so the enemy is, a couple of points of strength higher by default, those costs are higher, and it continues to be the case that you can't do anything about them. It reminds me of like the garbage balance in Rogue Tech, where you had units with nukes and they just appear and nuke your stuff, and it's like, well, then you just lose. It's like a non-standard game over. There's no skill in it. You lose because the scenario is set up in such a way that you take unpreventable damage. So yeah, anyway, that is it for this mission for now, because, as I said before, I could win this, but not economically. I could continue with my plan of pushing my core units up the center, and I think that would be fine. But the problem is that there's 2 tank pushes here that I didn't know about, and they've just come in. You know, because I figured that this was a defensive mission for them. They wouldn't attack. But they do. They attack here and they attack here. So if you haven't got units there to blunt the attack, then it's just going to ruin all these soft, squishy auxiliary units.
British infantry reporting.
And that's it. That's you done economically. Oh well, it is what it is. That is it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and will join me next time where, who knows, I might end up doing a second attempt at this campaign now that I understand the game, or I might just redeploy in a more spread out way, so I've got units here to prevent damage.
Tommies are here.
Yeah, it's funny as well, because knowing, another thing that bothers me is knowing the game and getting a big air force and exploiting your knowledge of the map also strikes me as being a really good strategy, and I really hate that kind of strategy.
Officer approaching.
There's, you know, there's lots of opportunity. I guess there'd be lots of opportunities to prevent auxiliary unit damage by actually having, say, a load of fighter planes just going around and nailing enemy aircraft before they can do anything. Okay, alright. That's enough ranting from me. So I'm going to have a think about what I want to do from here. If it wasn't a YouTube campaign, I would restart and play again from the beginning. And I think that's what I might end up doing, because I don't know how many more missions are left in this campaign, but I just think that the economic damage, I'm not sure if I can prevent it.
Jack Churchill, at your service.
Maybe if I had a lot more units, I could have prevented it. I don't know. I need to think about it. So that is it for now, and I will see you guys next time.